You know what I hear from homeschool moms everywhere? They want biblical accuracy without the fluff. A recent survey by my friends at Lifestone Ministries found that 46% of Christian families say that theological soundness is their top concern in a Bible curriculum. This is why I love the Illuminate Bible series from Lifestone Ministries. Unlike workbook heavy programs that drain the joy from Scripture, Illuminate takes your family deep into God's Word in just 15 minutes a day. No endless crafts or surface level lessons, just pure biblical truth. Each week's simple 5-step approach walks you through the story, context, scripture connection, doctrine, and real life application of what you're studying. And with one parent guide serving multiple children, that's less than $1 a lesson. If you want a curriculum that's built on sound theology and biblical alignment, you'll find it here. Visit lifestoneministries.org/Heidi and anchor your child's learning in the Word of God. Hey, everybody, this is Heidi St. John. Welcome to the Heidi St. John podcast. I'm glad you guys have joined me today for a very special episode of the podcast. It has been quite a day here at the Homeschool Resource Center and around the nation as we pause to celebrate what would have been the 32nd birthday of Charlie Kirk. I'm going to spend some time today playing some clips for you from Turning Point. We're going to listen to a little bit of Erica's speech as Charlie was awarded posthumously the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and just remark on his extraordinary life and some takeaways that I have seen that I think might be good for all of us. I'm glad you guys are here. Stick around. I think you're going to be encouraged. Thank you guys for tuning in today. Before I get started, I want to remind you that we love to hear from you. Our staff reads all of the comments that you leave on Spotify. We love to read your reviews over at Apple, at iTunes. If you could leave us a 5-star review, we would be so grateful. If you want to reach out to me, if you've got a show idea or a question that you would like answered, the way to do that is to go to HeidiSt.John.com/Fan Mail Friday. That's HeidiSt.John.com/Fan Mail Friday. I returned just a couple of days ago with my staff from, I think, probably what was the best women's retreat that I have ever done. And I've done lots of them over the years. But just the spirit at this one was extraordinary. Women literally came from all around the world and many different parts of the United States. And we came together to talk about what it means to live our faith out courageously. This is the heartbeat behind my women's ministry, Faith That Speaks. It is my deep belief that our faith should be a faith that speaks. And so we spent a lot of time talking about exactly what that looked like. The theme of this year's women's conference was born for this. And I hope that we take it with us for the rest of our lives. You guys are born for this time in human history. You're born for the struggles that we are having culturally and spiritually. You're born to raise the children that God gives you. You have been born to be a voice for righteousness and for truth in the culture right now. And I believe that part of living out your purpose in what God has gifted you to do and called you to do for such a time as this, I believe part of that is an exercise of courage. Many of you remember now, of course, that Charlie Kirk famously said that when he was asked, if it all went away, what he would want to be remembered for. And he said he wanted to be remembered for courage for his faith. And Charlie really was ahead of his time, knowing what is coming up in the culture, watching what's happening in the news. If you want to be a voice for righteousness in the culture, you have to have courage. It takes courage to go before a school board and call out the woke ideology that they are pushing that is hurting our children. It takes courage to say something as basic as there are only 2 genders and men cannot become women. Just yesterday morning, one of my daughters suffered an injury, and so I ended up taking her to the urgent care clinic. And it just astonishes me that when I'm filling out a form to sign her in so that she can get an x-ray, they list, I don't know, like 14 different options for gender. It's insanity. And yet, because Christians have not had a faith that speaks, we have allowed ourselves and the truth with us to be sidelined in the culture. This, of course, was something that Charlie was absolutely dedicated to, which was making sure that truth became a part of the American landscape again. You cannot have freedom apart from truth. And in fact, Jesus said that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. And so, from the perspective of little Heidi St. John here in my little neck of the woods, I want to just encourage you to really take the opportunity that we're in and meet the moment. Last night at the Homeschool Resource Center, we hosted an event that we were calling Meet the Moment, having people come from all over the community. We're teaching people how to get involved in everything from running for office to making sure that you help get out the vote. I still believe that if Christians and God-fearing people would simply do that one thing, their very, very, very basic civic responsibility, we would see landslide victories for at least common sense again in the country. And until that happens, I think we're just gonna continue to struggle. I thought today it would be good in light of the fact that yesterday was Charlie's birthday, and I saw a lot of people pause and celebrate it. I thought would be good to sort of reflect a little bit on his life and obviously the legacy that he has left behind. And I think it's true that whether you knew him personally or you just followed his work or you simply were moved by his story, his birthday really was a moment to sort of pause and stop and ask yourself, what parts of this young man's life could we emulate? What lessons can we draw? Charlie was a polarizing figure. Most change makers tend to do that. And I frankly loved that Charlie Kirk was not afraid to jump into the deep end of what a lot of people would consider controversy. We have to be able to speak to things that seem kind of controversial if we're going to advance the truth, if we're going to be able to have a conversation. And Charlie really did that. He founded Turning Point USA when I think he was about 18 years old. And what I understand is that he initially started this organization out of his garage. I think lots of really great ideas come from people's garages, right? You have an idea for a business, an idea for a nonprofit organization. A lot of them are started out of our homes and out of our garages. And Charlie was no exception to this. And one of the things that I am so impressed with him is that he didn't wait until he felt he had all of his credentials on hand. He went into this arena because he cared about it. And he was willing to get out there and do hard things, willing to have hard conversations. And he saw something in the rising generation that I think a lot of us are now, I hope, taking a second look at. Young people in their 20s and 30s. I heard an interview with Charlie and Erica recently, and they were saying that Charlie really felt a passion for who he called the lost boys of this generation. Young men, especially today, who have come out, graduated from high school. A lot of them even graduate from college. They have no idea what they want to do, no real mission in life. And so they end up playing video games in their mama's basement and losing some of these very, very important years of their lives. A prime example, I think, is young Mikey McCoy, 23 years old, who Charlie saw potential in and started giving him really tough assignments. And guess what? Mikey rose to the challenge. I think our young men would rise to the challenge if we would simply put in front of them a goal, an ambition, an idea that's worthy of their time and energy. And to Charlie, that idea that was worthy of his time and his energy and the devotion of his life was the idea of freedom. He wanted young people to experience freedom. He saw an America in decline. And I know that you guys see it too. I see it. I was just taking some of the women from my women's retreat, rode in my car with me because we had our retreat on the Oregon coast. And we drove through, well, not through, but around downtown Portland on our way to the coast. And I was noting all of the graffiti that's all over in Portland now, right? Graffiti on the overpasses and homeless camps, set up underneath bridges and stuff. And I said, if you guys are living in a city that is covered in graffiti, you are living in a city in decline. And the question is, I mean, to me, it's a pretty clear one. When are we going to start electing people that see the problems and actually want to build something? Anyone can tear something down, and that's what the left loves to do. They're tearing down the social constructs that have made this nation and frankly civilization work. The idea of male and female, the beautiful institution of marriage that God gave us, the command to fill the earth and subdue it by having children. The left is really good at tearing things down. Anyone can tear something down. It takes commitment and a mission and a vision to build something. And I want to just encourage you, if God's given you a vision, something that you want to do, or maybe you're just saying, I want to get involved, but I don't know what your excuse is. I don't have enough money. I don't feel like I have enough time. Maybe I feel like I'm too young, or maybe some of you are listening and you feel like you're too old. Listen, don't wait for perfect conditions. That's something I think we can learn from Charlie's life. He didn't wait for perfection. He jumped in with both feet when he saw a problem and started working toward a solution. So if you see a cause, a gap, a need, begin where you are, even if it's small, because momentum will compound over time. I want to play something for you. Our staff has been kind of looking at videos that are around, a lot of them actually, and the one I'm going to play for you right now, actually coming from Turning Point USA. This is Charlie's birthday video that they put out for him. It is absolutely spectacular. Get out some tissue and settle in for a second, because I'm going to play the whole thing for you. This is the birthday tribute to Charlie Kirk.
When you make that covenant with the Lord on that altar, don't let that fire burn out from the altar. That love is so special and so powerful. You married your soulmate. You married the person who God made for you.
He was the perfect father. He was the perfect husband. Charlie always believed that God's design for marriage and the family was absolutely amazing, and it is. It is, and it was the greatest joy of his life. And over, he would tell all these young people to come and find their future spouse, become wives and husbands and parents. And the reason why is because he wanted you all to experience what he had and still has. He wanted everyone to bring heaven into this earth through love and joy that comes from raising a family. It's beautiful.
I think it's really interesting to see the growth that's happening at Turning Point USA right now in the aftermath of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Their current national statistics say that there are 120,000 and growing chapter requests for Turning Point USA chapters at local high schools, and 3,500 actually in existence. In Washington state alone, we are seeing incredible growth. We had 10 high school chapters in Washington state before the murder of Charlie Kirk, and now we have 45 chapters. Charlie was absolutely focused on young people. He understood, you know who else was focused on young people, you guys? Thomas Jefferson focused on young people. Ben Franklin focused on young people. If you look at the average age of the founders of our country, they were very young, many of them in their 20s. And I think we've gotten to a point where we just don't expect very much of our young people anymore. And I would love to see us turn that around. Certainly, Charlie believed that it could be turned around, and I believe it too. And we have an opportunity to do that right now. And Turning Point USA really grew into a major campus conservative network because of Charlie's commitment to organizing these young people and energizing them and empowering them to engage in the political conversation that the left basically stole the narrative from and said, either you engage from our perspective or we're going to boot you out of polite society and ostracize you because you're not progressive enough for modern conversations. And in the 2024 election cycle, I have read that Charlie embarked on a tour of 25 college campuses to reach Gen Z voters and stimulate political involvement. And he was absolutely and historically so effective, to the point where President Trump acknowledged over and over again how incredible of a young man he was. Charlie Kirk treated these young people not as passive followers, but really as young people who had both the capacity and the capability to do the hard work of turning the nation around. And we've seen now so many people saying, "Hey, this is our turning point. This is where the country now is going to pivot and actually start to turn this incredible." If it's the USS America, we have been wildly off course now for literally decades. And it is going, if we're going to turn it around, it's going to be the young people that do it. And Charlie Kirk understood that. This is why he went to college campuses. As we move throughout the show today, we're going to continue just to play some things for you that I thought were really important. I want you to hear this clip. And we're going to play clip 2 in just a minute. But I want you to hear this because Charlie Kirk's friend, Mikey McCoy, who is also his chief of staff, talks about some of the grounding principles that really motivated and spoke to Charlie Kirk. Listen to this. It's about a minute from probably a 15-minute piece, but I'd love you to hear it. Let's play clip 2.
When I first joined Charlie, we were on a flight from Maine to New York. He looked at me and asked, "How many states have you been to?" Shocked by my low number, Charlie said, "I'm gonna have to change that." And he did. In my time with Charlie, I visited 48 states. This fall, we're supposed to hit the final 2. On Charlie's desk, there was a framed box of text that contained 3 simple questions. What can I do to help someone today? What can I do to add value to the world today? And how can I honor God today? Or in other words, what can I do for those around me? What can I do for civilization? And what can I do for our Creator? 3 simple questions, and yet by asking these questions of himself every day and doing his utmost every day to achieve the answers, Charlie Kirk changed the world. Everything Charlie did was part of his higher purpose. Each moment was a chance to learn, a chance to build, a chance to bond, or a chance to rest in the next flurry of activities.
Wow.
People are shocked.
So here's a young man who obviously wasn't letting any grass grow under his feet, but every person that was around him, Charlie didn't see a young 18-year-old boy with no purpose and no visions. Charlie saw 18-year-old young men and said, these guys could actually change the course of the country. And he had these foundational principles underneath him that were girding everything he did. And I want us to think about this today because everyone who's listening to this, and this was a huge part of my women's retreat that we just finished on the Oregon coast, everyone listening to this, just like Charlie, you all have influence. You all carry influence. So wherever that sphere of influence is, whether it's among your peers, your students, some of you have influence in your youth group, some of you are mothers and you have influence in your homeschool cooperatives or at your places of employment, I want us to seek to elevate voices, the ones that are around us, to help people find their voice. This is the mantra of Faith That Speaks is my women's ministry now that we've been doing for about 8 years. And I love to challenge people that listen to me when I speak at these events. If your faith found its voice, what would God have you say? If your faith found its feet, where would God take you? What would he do with you? You just heard Mikey say, that Charlie took him to 48 states and he's only got 2 more to go. And I want to challenge you, uh, call the young people around you and the parents in your sphere of influence, uh, call them to step in instead of just speaking for them. Let's see if we can get people engaged and excited again about saving our amazing nation and doing what Charlie did. Because when Charlie embarked on these college campus tours, that's what he was doing. He was saying, step up to the microphone. I'm going to require something of you. Ask your question. Be bold enough to say, this is what I think. And then Charlie took the time to answer them. Today's podcast is being sponsored in part by my friends, Doctors Mark and Michelle Sherwood at the Functional Medical Institute. I cannot recommend them highly enough to you. And as you guys know, I have walked through a pretty significant health scare when I was diagnosed with a tumor this past February. I got a chance to work directly with Doctors Mark and Michelle through the entire process, from the diagnosis to my surgery and even through my recovery. And I can tell you with absolute confidence that one of the best decisions that I ever made while I was facing this diagnosis was to work with them at the Functional Medical Institute. You guys can visit Doctors Mark and Michelle no matter where you are in the country, and I hope that you'll check them out by going to homeschoolhealth.com. That's homeschoolhealth.com. The other thing I think that is so important, and you just saw this in the video that we played, is that Charlie was very well known for his consistent messaging because he was very sure of his purpose. He had a clarity of purpose, unlike just about anybody else I've ever known. He was known for repeating core themes strongly, the themes of free markets, of limited government, skepticism of mainstream institutions. I was in a meeting one time, this is several years ago, with Charlie, and we were talking about alternatives to the education system. And he asked me very plainly, did I think that the education system could be saved? And I said, no, I don't. And I continue to believe that. And so in true Charlie Kirk fashion, he began to look for ideas and ways to move outside of these mainstream institutions, because he understood this idea that many people in academia today are ideologically biased against conservatives, and they're frankly biased against the principles that made this nation the greatest nation on the face of the earth. And so after he understood the power of communication, then he went on to author some books. Of course, he authored the Maggot Doctrine and Campus Battlefield, but he maintained this consistent voice across every platform that he created, because he had a vision and he hung in there with it until people started to be moved by what he saw. And he began to move the needle in a way that I think is extraordinary. And I frankly think, as I said a few minutes ago, you guys are born for this. You're not here for no reason. You're not here, as a pastor friend of mine used to say, to sit and soak and sour. You're here with a limited number of days and a limited number of hours and a limited number of opportunities in which to do the thing that God has created you to do. And so I would just encourage you, find your passion, ask the Lord for it. So people say to me, well, how will I know what that is? What is it in the culture right now that makes your heart race, that really, maybe it makes you angry? Maybe, and it's the cause of the unborn, like my friend Abby Johnson. And it makes you angry that people are devoting their lives to the brutal killing of unborn little babies. Whatever it is that makes your palm sweat or your heart race or something you wish you could do something about it, if you seek to persuade or teach or lead around you, clarify the core convictions, the things that are important to you, and then be consistent. Be consistent in every aspect of your life. It's like we read the psalmist David, who was saying, Lord, search me, try me. Is there anything in my life that doesn't bring you glory? Is there anything in my life that could trip me up and cause me not to be able to do the thing that I was put here on this earth to do? Because it's better to be known for a few clear principles. I think this is really true, than to be diffuse and meandering in your life's purpose, right? That we just kind of meander from thing to thing to thing. For Heidi St. John, my core mission has always been to bring up my children in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. And when that was beginning to take place, and I could see that my children were starting to be grounded and rooted in their faith, I then turn my attention to the community around me because I recognize that our education system is absolutely broken. And when Charlie asked me, did I think it could be redeemed? And I said, no. It's because I believe that the education system is inherently flawed. And I'm not going to go into it today because we don't have time. But you've heard me teach on this before. The history of the public school system tells me that the schools themselves are not broken. They're doing exactly what they were designed to do. It's just that now they're not hiding it anymore. They used to be hiding it, and now they're not. And of course, Charlie's efforts to get conservative voices onto college campuses is all of a sudden having a tremendous impact, as we are seeing for the first time in generations, the young men, Gen Z, these guys are coming to Christ. They're coming back to conservative values. They're signing up for the military in record numbers, of course, thanks to Pete Hegseth and President Trump, who've gotten woke ideology. They're ripping it up by its disgusting roots right out of the fabric of our military. And young men again are saying, I could get behind that. I could get behind that. As Pete Hegseth said, no more dudes in dresses. We're done with that. I'm thrilled. Yesterday, I hope that you saw this. Charlie Kirk was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Trump, and it was really something to see. And so we're going to play clip 3 for you. This is President Trump announcing the award.
So we hold his memory in our hearts forever. Every single day of this administration, we will continue to carry out the mission for which he lived, and he really did. He lived for this country. He lived for his wife and his family, but he lived for this country too. In Charlie's honor, we will continue like we have been to fight, and to win. We're going to win so much. So the Presidential Medal of Freedom is a big deal. You have the Congressional Medal of Honor, military, and the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is civilian. And the Presidential Medal of Freedom is a really big deal. Very few people get it. Very few people, frankly, qualify. It's a decision of the president, but it's a qualification that's a very hard one to get. And I would like to ask, if I might, the military aide to read Charles James Kirk's citation for the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Thank you very much. Thank you.
The Presidential Medal of Freedom is awarded to Charles James Kirk. Accepting on behalf of Charlie is his wife, Mrs. Erica Kirk. Charlie Kirk was one of the most influential American political figures of his generation. At just 18 years old, he founded Turning Point USA and grew it into the largest conservative youth organization in the nation. For over a decade, he tirelessly traveled the country, leading a movement to restore respect for our founding principles, reawaken our national identity, and inspire a renewed spirit of religious devotion. He was one of the great debaters and communicators of his time. Despite receiving repeated threats, he remained undeterred and modeled courage, logic, humor, and grace to the next generation. On September 10th, 2025, at age 31, Charlie Kirk was assassinated while addressing a group of students. The United States honors him as a martyr for truth and freedom.
Amazing thing to be able to see. I had actually texted my friend Rob McCoy to say, hey, could you come on the show and just do, a 10-minute segment with me talking about the future of Turning Point, what you guys are doing next. And he said, man, I'd love to, but I'm going to be at the White House because Charlie Kirk's going to be posthumously awarded this Presidential Medal of Freedom. And I was like, okay, well, I guess that's more important. But it really was something to see. If you missed Erica's speech, we're going to play just a little clip for you. And as you watch this, I want you to think, when I watched it, I was thinking about Charlie Kirk living out his faith. And I wrote in my notes today that a faith lived out lives on. Let's play clip 4. This is part of Erica Kirk's speech.
The very existence of the Presidential Medal of Freedom reminds us that the national interest of the United States has always been freedom. Our founders etched it into the preamble of our Constitution, and those words are not relics on parchment. They are a living covenant. The blessings of liberty are not man's invention, they are God's endowment. Charlie lived for those blessings, not as abstract words, but as sacred promises.
So as you guys can see, Charlie Kirk's message, his mission, the ministry of Turning Point USA isn't going anywhere. And there's a few other things I wanted to just throw at you today as you consider your role in the culture. Charlie really did court debate. He invited it. He wanted it because he wanted, he was a huge proponent, obviously, of free speech. But more than that, I think we wanted these young people to really think through their positions and think through their ideas. And so to that end, he invited the confrontation, and sometimes we absolutely need it. So he would host these events around the country, and they were called Prove Me Wrong, these tables at campuses. And of course, this went on to create a lot of viral debate moments. And in so doing, he really took some big risks emotionally, reputationally, because he would enter contested spaces and rather than stay in an echo chamber, invite the opposing point of view to an open debate, an open and honest debate. And I thought it was interesting in Erica's speech yesterday when she was talking about her husband. She said that there were very few things that bothered Charlie Kirk. He was not afraid. And you can't be afraid if you're going to speak for truth and righteousness in the culture right now. And you guys have heard me teach on this, so I'm not going to belabor it today. But the Bible teaches us that fear is a spirit. It's not an emotion. And we know it doesn't come from God. Why? Because the Bible teaches us God didn't give you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And Erica said that Charlie was not afraid of losing friends. She said he just really didn't care. He wasn't afraid if you attacked his ideas or even his reputation. He really didn't care. And you have to have that attitude if you're going to survive in the cultural landscape that's around us today. And so I want to encourage you, for those of you who are considering, and I hope you all are, how do you get off and get off the bench and onto the battlefield? That growth often will happen, and I think most of the time it happens at the edges of your comfort zone, not inside the comfort zone. So don't shy away from hard questions. The Bible actually says that we are to study as God's people to show ourselves approved workmen who do not need to be ashamed, who can rightly handle the word of truth. We're called to be able to give an answer. And so don't shy away from these hard questions. Push back. Engage opposing views civilly, obviously, which is what Charlie always did. This is how ideas are tested and refined. And Charlie was well known for doing this. What if your morning cup of coffee could do more than just wake you up? Introducing ETP Coffee from Equipping the Persecuted. It's a high-end specialty roast crafted with excellence. But here's the difference. 100% of every dollar goes directly to saving the lives of persecuted Christians in Nigeria. Over the last 5 years, 90% of all Christian persecution deaths have occurred in Nigeria. This is why every bag of ETP coffee matters. The Bible says whether you eat or whether you drink, do it all to the glory of God. And with ETP coffee, your daily cup becomes an act of faith, providing food, medical aid, schools, and protection for those who are suffering simply because they follow Christ. Drink coffee that makes an eternal impact. Order now at etpcoffee.com and share the mission by inviting your friends to join you at etpcoffee.com. I also want to encourage you to do something else that I saw Charlie do. He built an institution, not just the Charlie Kirk podcast or just Charlie's voice. He built an institution and understood that if it was going to have an enduring impact, it would need to be led by lots of different people. So he would need chapters and staff and funding and structure. And he also expanded into things like Turning Point Action and Turning Point Academy, both of which I have been really pleased to be able to work for. And so you can't build movements with just one person. And so I'd encourage you, if you live in this area, for example, we founded Firmly Planted Action, which is the 501c4 arm of our 501c3. The 501c3, Firmly Planted Family, is how we got firmly planted, really to be a voice for righteousness in the community. And we're looking to expand that even more as we look to put homeschool resource centers in different parts of the country, or at the very least to build an association so that you guys can find firmly planted homeschool resource centers. Because when we work together, the movement isn't fragile. Charlie Kirk's legacy and the mission that he was on hasn't even skipped a beat, because it wasn't just Charlie. It was thousands of other people who appreciated his vision and came along to make it sustainable. And you really need that. And so if you're here in Washington State, particularly in Southwest Washington or in the greater Portland metropolitan area, I would encourage you to get involved in Firmly Planted Action. Get involved in the Turning Point Club America that we've got going right here at the Homeschool Resource Center. Get involved. Refuse to be a side, just a watcher on the side and sitting on the sidelines. If you lead an effort or you care about a cause, invest in it. Invest in it. Invest in it with your time and your treasure. And as the founding fathers would say, your sacred honor. Learn how these models and these organizations are trying to bring change to the cultural landscape around you, and then do more than give it lip service. Get involved. Because I think, the elections that are coming up are going to be pretty intense. And we're already seeing this, right? The Democrats are going to stop at nothing to try to tear down what Donald Trump is doing. And by the way, on Friday of this week, my friend Pastor Phil is going to be on the show with me, and we're going to be unpacking the events that are just unfolding even now in the Middle East. In the rearview mirror now, of course, is the peace deal that President Trump brokered in between Hamas and Israel. Of course, as soon as the IDF forces pulled out of Gaza, the Hamas started turning on Gazans, right? We saw men dragged out into the street and publicly executed for the crime of, they say, working to help the IDF or working to help Israeli citizens. Hamas is a brutal terrorist organization, nothing more and nothing less. And the events that are happening there, particularly in light of Bible prophecy, are fascinating. And so I hope you guys will tune in just a couple of days as my friend Pastor Phil Hopper comes, and we're going to unpack all the events that are happening in the Middle East and hold them up against Bible prophecy. This is something that Charlie Kirk was very interested in, and I continue to be very interested in it. And I would encourage you to study the Word of God. If you have never done my study on the book of Revelation, it is called People Get Ready. It is a very in-depth study of the eschatological implications of the vision that God gave to the Apostle John, who wrote the book of Revelation, and it is worth studying. The Bible actually says that there is a special blessing for people who will study the book of Revelation. And you guys can find that right now by going to my website, HeidiSt.John.com, clicking on the store and click on my Bible studies. I literally have dozens and dozens of studies there for you to choose from. The one on Revelation is called People Get Ready. And speaking of People Get Ready, you guys have heard me say it, and I haven't talked about it very much. So there've been so many things going on, but I'm going to be taking a group of people to see the 7 churches that the Apostle John wrote those letters. So here's, Jesus really talking through John, and he penned letters to the 7 churches of Asia Minor. And we are going to be walking to see those churches, Thyatira and Smyrna and Pergamum and Laodicea and the church at Ephesus. You guys, it's going to be enormously life-changing for you. And this is going to happen in November of next year. I'll link back to it today at HeidiSt.John.com/mentions, but a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for you to come with me and walk to see the 7 churches of Revelation. And right before we do that, I'm going to be teaching through the 7 churches at Faith That Speaks. And so you won't want to miss that. You can be sure to sign up for that by going to faiththatspeaks.com. At the very least, do that Bible study with me. And you guys, I'm giving you lots and lots of runway so that you can put some money aside and join me for this incredible opportunity to see the 7 churches in Revelation. A couple of things I want to point out today as I get to the end of my show. Charlie Kirk operated in high profile, often very politically charged arenas. He wrote and spoke and acted in areas that drew intense criticism, often backlash, and doing what he did requires resolve. It requires courage because you've got to be able to stand even when you're attacked. And it's very easy for us to sort of be armchair warriors and criticize the people that are out there doing the hard work. And I want to just encourage you, if God calls you to the culture, getting out and doing what God's going to ask you to do is going to require that kind of resolve. To make a mark requires courage. I noted that my friend Victor Marks has just announced a run for the governor of the state of Colorado. I'm going to be giving him a call to see if I can get him on my show and talk about that. That requires courage. And if your faith becomes a faith that speaks, you're going to be tested. But faithfulness to conviction, so long as it's grounded in the word of God and you're listening to what God asked you to do, will invite growth and it will invite influence and it will also create a legacy. And that is exactly what Charlie Kirk did. And so as we remember him today and as we think about him going into Christmas, I would encourage you absolutely, number one, to pray for Erica. She obviously is an extraordinary woman who has an awful lot on her plate now. She's raising 2 children alone. But I would encourage you to pray for her. She was born for this. Just like you were born for your time, she was born for this. Pray for her, that God would bring just the right people in to encourage her when she needs to be encouraged. And trust me when I say that I believe that God will do it. But I want you to ask yourself, in my life, in my community, in my workplace, at my campus, in my neighborhood, where is the opportunity? People are not the obstacle, as my friend Rob McCoy would say. They're the opportunity. Where is the opportunity? Where is an injustice that you see happening around you that God would have you use your voice? Maybe it's boys in girls' locker rooms. Maybe it's boys playing in girls' sports. Maybe it's the plight of the unborn. Maybe it's the advancing of communism and Marxism into the social landscape. Where do you think God would have your faith be a faith that speaks? Just choose one small step. Maybe it's writing a letter to the editor of your paper, an op-ed, or maybe it's organizing an event, speaking, mentoring, coming alongside a group like Firmly Planted Action and helping us, which, by the way, we really need. You guys can go to firmlyplantedAction.org. Your funding would help us with our efforts to put ballot boxes in churches and get out the vote so that we see greater civic engagement here in our community. But get in there and put your money where your mouth is, you guys. There are wonderful organizations that are doing incredible work, and you coming alongside financially maybe could be the difference between them being able to put a ballot box in a church and not being able to do it. So I'd encourage you to do that. Commit to being consistent. Don't let a misstep or a setback set you back. Don't expect overnight success. These things take time, but ask the Lord to hone your voice and your passion and give you opportunities to have your faith be a faith that speaks. And then finally, I would encourage you to embrace courage. If you guys are watching this on Rumble, and I hope that you are, you see that I'm wearing my shirt today. It says courage. On the back of it is an American flag. Courage is required. It is not optional in the life of a believer. We are not called to walk in fear. We cannot live with this constant fear of the what ifs or what might happen. And so if you believe in something, don't shy away from engaging with that thing, even if it makes you feel uncomfortable. I guess I would say, especially if it makes you feel uncomfortable. When I ran for Congress, it challenged me every day. There are many, many things that happened that were frankly terrifying. I was stretched as I engaged, in debates with my opponents in front of people that hated me. And I learned to stand on my own 2 feet and trust the Lord was going to finish in me what he began, because he will do that. And Charlie Kirk has run his race. He finished well, and he has heard, well done, good and faithful servant. And if you're listening to this today, you're still running your race, and God would have you finish well. You guys have heard me say it before, and I'm going to keep saying it. Anyone can start strong. It's very hard to finish strong, but God would have you finish strong, and he will help you. He'll never leave you, and he'll never forsake you. He loves you. And so I hope that as we remember Charlie's birthday yesterday, that it's not just a commemoration of the past, but an opportunity to commit ourselves to the future, to what we believe, and to have our faith become a faith that speaks, so that we act boldly to build a future for our children and our children's children and their children's children, should the Lord tarry. You guys were born for this time in human history, and courage really is contagious. And so thank you, Charlie Kirk. I hope that that the memory of Charlie Kirk and the ministry and the message of Turning Point USA continues to go out with power and conviction, and inspires every single one of us to get off the bench and onto the battlefield. You guys have heard me say this before, and I'm going to keep saying it. It's your life. Show up for it. I appreciate you guys listening. If you're interested in taking my tour with me of the 7 churches of Asia Minor, registration for that has just opened, and it includes all of your airfare. It includes your meals, your lodging, and we're going to be staying in some extraordinary places. And it's not just for women. So if you've got, you want to come as couples, I'd encourage you to do that. You can bring your Bible study. You can bring your church group. This is going to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to go with me to see the 7 churches of Revelation. I'm going to be recording my podcast from there, and we're going to be doing some teaching along the way too. So it's going to be an extraordinary opportunity. I hope you guys will do it. If you would like to get a shirt like the one I'm wearing, it says courage on it, we hope that you'll do that. And you can do that simply by going to HeidiSt.John.com and click on the store. All the new merch is there, including the Courage is Contagious sweatshirts. Everything is there for Christmas, and we are getting ready to put our Christmas bundles online. So keep watching for that. We love you guys. We would love to hear from you. You can reach out to me directly by going to HeidiSt.John.com/Fan Mail Friday. That's HeidiSt.John.com/Fan Mail Friday. We would love to hear from you. I'm continuing to talk about the awesome, non-woke, toxic-free makeup that I am interested in. And you guys can find out more by going to HeidiSt.John.com and checking out myfreedomcart.com/Heidi. Thank you guys so much for listening. We love you. Have a great day. Get off the bench, get onto the battlefield, and I'll see you right back here again at the intersection of faith and culture.